Hello, space explorers. Welcome back to Sci-Fi Space, the place where we dive into the most mind-blowing sci-fi stories in the universe. Today, we are diving into a totally insane story that only humans could pull off. What happens when aliens find out that milk, yeah, plain old milk, can take down the spiciest, deadliest dish in the galaxy? I'm talking about a single glass of milk freaking out the entire galactic concordance and putting humanity on the map as a force to be reckoned with. Stick around till the end to see the craziest spice showdown in cosmic history. Plus, there's a hilarious twist you won't want to miss. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and let's blast off into the stars with Sci-Fi Space. Here we go. The Grand Hall of the Galactic Concordance was silent. An eerie, expectant hush settled over the gathered ambassadors, diplomats, warriors, and rulers from across the stars. They had convened for one of the most sacred traditions in interstellar politics, the Great Feast of Unity, where each species presented their most treasured culinary masterpiece. But this year, the feast had an unspoken challenge. At the center of the impossibly long banquet table, beneath a shimmering glow of crystalline chandeliers, a single dish sat, bubbling ominously. The air around it shimmered with heat, its dark, viscous form releasing acrid fumes that made even the hardiest alien delegates recoil. The Char'tall, a dish so potent, so excruciatingly dangerous, that even the warriors of the Zor'Xan Empire, a species known for their resilience against toxic environments, considered it the ultimate test of strength. Infused with venom extracted from the skok viper, laced with the crystallized ash of the toxin bloom, and seasoned with the fire dust of dying stars, the Char'tall was not a meal, it was a declaration of dominance. And now, it was Earth's turn. All eyes were on Captain Jake Reynolds, humanity's sole representative at the feast. He was young by galactic standards, with sharp eyes and an easy confidence that unsettled his alien counterparts. He leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, regarding the Char'tall with mild amusement. Ambassador Char'tall of the Zor'Xan Empire stood, his emerald-scaled form towering over the table. His slitted eyes gleamed with amusement as he addressed the hall. "This dish," he said, his deep voice reverberating through the chamber, "is a testament to our strength. Only the worthy may consume it. Lesser beings do not survive." The implication was clear. A slow murmur rippled through the gathered species. The humans were new to the galactic stage. Fragile. Soft. They lacked the evolutionary adaptations of the stronger races. Surely, this would be their undoing. Jake exhaled, then picked up a fork. Silence. The moment stretched into eternity as he speared a piece of the bubbling mass. Alien delegates tensed, some clutching their translators as if preparing to record humanity's final words. With a casual shrug, Jake lifted the morsel to his lips, and took a bite. The hall erupted into chaos. Gasping, screeching, clicking mandibles, every species reacted in their own way. Some turned away, unable to witness what they assumed was instant death. Others leaned forward, morbid curiosity overcoming their horror. Jake sat motionless for a moment. His jaw moved as he chewed thoughtfully. Then, after a long pause, he swallowed. He winced slightly. He muttered, smacking his lips. "That's spicy." Then, to the absolute horror of the entire galactic concordance, he reached for a glass of milk and took a sip. The room froze. Wide, terrified alien eyes locked onto him. Someone knocked over a goblet. An ambassador fainted. Jake set the glass down, exhaled in satisfaction, and leaned forward with a grin. Not bad. Got any more? To truly understand the chaos that was about to unfold, one must first understand how the galaxy perceived food not as a mere source of sustenance, but as a test of endurance, honor, and power. Across the vast expanse of space, countless civilizations had evolved under extreme and often unforgiving conditions. The forelook of our UN thrived on molten rock harvested from the collapsing cores of dying stars, their bodies naturally resistant to temperatures that would reduce most life forms to vapor. The Zelvari, a gelatinous species, considered acidic pools of liquid methane a delicacy, slurping them up as humans might sip a fine wine. Even the Gorkoth, a species whose biology allowed them to digest raw metal, had developed a taste for superheated tungsten shavings, which they described as delightfully crunchy. And then, there was the Zor'Xan Empire, the undisputed champions of extreme cuisine. To them, food was warfare, a means to demonstrate dominance. Their dishes were not simply meals but trials of survival, consumed only by the strongest and most resilient. Their greatest warriors were forged through flame, trained from a young age to endure the most excruciating of sensations. The flame trials, a sacred rite of passage, were legendary across the stars. Those who passed were granted the title of Viadar, or Fireborn. Those who failed, their names were erased from history. And at the center of it all was Char'tall, the deadliest, most revered dish in the galaxy. A bubbling, hissing mass of venom-laced proteins and bioreactive enzymes, it was a chemical inferno on a plate. Just being near it could make lesser species break into convulsions. Consuming it? That was a feat worthy of legends. It was said that even among the Zor'Xan, only 1 in 20 survived their first bite. This was why the assembled species had watched with such anticipation when the human, Captain Jake Reynolds, lifted his fork. To them, humans were fragile, water-filled creatures from a planet of moderate temperatures and laughably mild cuisine. They had no natural defenses against toxic biomes, no built-in resistance to corrosive substances. The idea that a human could withstand something that would obliterate even some of the strongest species in the galaxy was beyond absurd. And yet, here they were. Jake had not only survived Char'tall, he had dismissed it as merely spicy. It was impossible. The aliens scrambled to make sense of what had just occurred. Some theorized that humans possessed an undisclosed genetic mutation, one that made them impervious to biochemical agony. Others believed this was some form of primitive human sorcery. And still others whispered that perhaps Earth had secretly engineered their species for intergalactic warfare, developing an unholy tolerance for suffering. But then, Jake did something that shattered all logic. He drank milk. The room had already been on edge, but at that moment, the tension exploded. Delegates gasped, shrieked, and scrambled away from the table as if he had just activated some forbidden ancient weapon. The Zor'Xan ambassador, Char'tall, staggered back in horror. The gelatinous Zelvari turned an alarming shade of neon blue, a sign of pure panic in their species. Somewhere in the back, a feathered diplomat from the Avon clans fainted on the spot. What had the human just consumed? The Galactic Science Division, always eager to dissect and analyze new discoveries, was already rushing to collect samples. In hushed tones, theories emerged at lightning speed. Is it an antidote? One scientist murmured. A performance-enhancing drug, another whispered. Perhaps it neutralizes the body's pain receptors. But then a far more disturbing thought entered their minds. Did the humans engineer this as a weapon? And just like that, the discovery of milk became an interstellar crisis. The Galactic Concordance had seen many diplomatic incidents over the centuries: border disputes, failed peace negotiations, even the occasional interstellar war. But never in its history had an event so baffling, so fundamentally reality-breaking, shaken the very foundation of alien understanding. And the cause of this crisis? A human. Captain Jake Reynolds, Earth's chosen representative, sat at the now infamous banquet table, looking entirely to culinary suicide. Across the hall, alien delegates were in various states of distress. The Zor'Xan warriors, normally composed and unreadable, twitched their tails in agitation. The Vorith collective had venting small bursts of their atmosphere Draxian enclave, as cyber. And yet, there sat Jake. Completely fine. No convuls. Just a casual request for milk. As the hall descended into frantic whispers, the Galactic Science Division activated Crisis Protocol 17 reserved for known existential threats. Within minutes blinking and whirring as the Prekthar Research Council, multifaceted eyes reflecting sheer panic. Human, only adjusting their bioscanner, *, how are you still alive? Jake. Oh, the Char'tall? Yeah, that was intense, he real spicy. But nothing crazy. Nothing crazy, a rottenness Federation Ouija color universally recognized as sheer terror. That dish has enough biochemical toxicity to melt through reinforced starship plating, another alien. Jake shrugged. Yeah, but have you guys ever tried a Carolina Reaper? Silence. Absolute, horrified silence. The alien delegation * turned to one another. See. What is a Carolina Reaper? Cray. Jake leaned back in his chair, smiling. Oh, it's just one of Earth's hottest peppers. Some people eat them for fun. More gasps. More stunned clicking, screeching, and somewhere in the back a high-pitched electronic beep scratched from data overload. 1. Explain this milk phenomenon, they demanded. Jake raised an eyebrow. You guys don't have milk? More silence. Jake sighed and motioned toward his now half-empty glass. All right, here's the science lesson. Spiciness, or the sensation of heat from certain foods, is caused by a chemical called capsaicin. It binds to pain receptors in the mouth, which is why it feels like it's burning. But milk contains casein, which breaks down capsaicin molecules and washes them away, neutralizing the heat. Then, as if the very fabric of reality had been torn apart, the Zalvari delegate let out a psychic scream. The humans have an antidote to pain. The hall erupted into chaos. Some species immediately demanded access to milk, fearing a galaxy-altering medical breakthrough a secret. Others, this casein compound must be banned as a terrible sign in their culture. Krexthal's slitted eyes narrowed. This changes everything. Jake, now. Look, guys, I think you're blowing this out of proportion, he said. No, a booming Empress Varaxii of the Gorkoth Dominion stood. This is a declaration of war. The room immediately fell silent again. Jake blinked. Wait, what? Varaxii pointed a clawed, metal-infused finger at him. For centuries, the Zor'Xan Empire has ruled as the undisputed masters of resilience. Their flame trials were the ultimate test of supremacy. Shigastashian faced Zor'Xan delegates. And yet, this tiny, soft-skinned primate from an unknown system has reduced their most sacred dish to. She paused, a mild inconvenience. Jake. Hey, I never said it was mild. Varaxii ignored. You must respond to this disgrace. The Zor'Xan ambassador stood. He is right, Cray, the Char'tall trial has been defiled. If we do nothing, our empire will lose all honor. Hiss locked onto Jake. Human, you will face our greatest warriors in the only way fitting, a duel. Jake froze mid-drink. A duel. Krexthal's tail lashed against the floor. A spice duel. No milk. No mercy. Only survival. Jake said. All right. But if I win, you guys have to try buffalo wings. The galaxy officially lost its mind. The Galactic Science Division had seen its fair share of unbelievable phenomena: black holes bending space-time, quantum anomalies rewriting the laws of physics, entire civilizations evolving on worlds with toxic atmospheres. But nothing, absolutely nothing, could have prepared them for this. A human had just survived the deadliest dish in a known galaxy, and neutralized it with a mysterious white liquid. The banquet hall was still in chaos. Shocked diplomats whispered, scientists scrambled to recalibrate their scanners, and some species simply stood frozen, their brains unable to process the implications of what they had just witnessed. At the center of it all sat Captain Jake Reynolds, who, completely oblivious to the diplomatic and scientific meltdown he had just caused, was still casually sipping the last of his milk. His nonchalance only made things worse. Within minutes, emergency crisis protocols were activated. The Galactic Science Division, a multi-species coalition of the brightest minds in the universe, was called in to assess the situation. Scientists from the Prekthar Research Council, a species of highly intelligent arthropods, scuttled forward with their scanning devices, frantically waving them around Jake like he was a newly discovered life form. His biochemistry appears normal, one of them chittered, mandibles clicking in frustration. No signs of enhanced resilience, no hidden cybernetic implants. He is just human. That makes no sense, a reptilian scientist from the Thresian technocracy hissed, his tail twitching violently. The Char'tall is lethal to all known biological life. How did he neutralize it? A gelatinous researcher from the Zalvari collective pulsed with anxiety, their translucent form shifting colors in rapid succession. Perhaps the human possesses a latent genetic mutation, one that renders him immune to pain, they suggested. A cybernetic Zor'Xan, who had just rebooted after his earlier system crash, processed the data and shook his metallic head. Negative. His body registers standard nerve pain response. He felt the heat. He just counteracted it. The hall fell silent. The scientists turned back to Jake, who had finally noticed the 30 different scanning devices pointed. He blinked. Can I help you guys? A scientist from the Rottenness Federation, their gelatin. This, liquid. Explain. Jake glanced at his glass, then. Milk, he asked. A ripple of panic and intrigue swept. Yes, he said slowly, it's just milk. You know, it comes from cows. Silence. More horrified gasps. It comes from an organic creature, you mean it is, excreted? By a living thing. Jake frowned. I mean, when you put it that way, it sounds weird. But yeah. It's just cow's milk. We drink it all the time. The scientists reeled. This cannot be, as cyber. How can a secretion from a primitive, four-legged herbivore neutralize a biochemical reaction so potent that it has been used as a biological weapon on some worlds? A Prek. Did the humans engineer this substance? The room froze. The implications hit all at once. Was this a secret human biochemical enhancement program? Had humans been manipulating their own biology for generations to achieve? Could they be impervious to other forms of chemical warfare? For a species to develop this kind of countermeasure extreme biochemical threats in their evolutionary history. And if humans had engineered this, we must study it, and within minutes, scientists had seized Jake's glass. A dozen analyzers, scanners, and biospectrometers hum. Alien minds race to unlock the secrets of this mysterious Earth compound. Data. What they found only deepened the mystery. The composition is shockingly simple, a cybernetic D, mostly water, some proteins, lipids, lactose, yet the molecular interactions are unparalleled in known biochemical history. Hey. It's just too convenient that this milk happens to counteract the Char'tall's effects so perfectly. This cannot be coincidence. A Zalvari researcher quivered violently. It must be classified as a level 1 galactic bioweapon until further testing is conducted. Jake. Guys. It's not a weapon. It's just milk. A long, suspicious pause. Char'tall of the Zor'Xan Empire narrowed his. Then drink it again. Jake blinked. Wait, what? You claim this substance is not engineered, then drink it again. Prove it is harmless. A group of scientists and diplomats leaned forward, their faces tense. Jake, now thoroughly annoyed, grabbed a fresh glass and took a dramatic gulp. Silence. Then, to the absolute horror of every species present, he. Ah! Tastes even better cold. The room erupted into absolute chaos. As the scientific panic spiraled out of control, wild theories swept through the galactic concordance. Earth has been secretly developing biochemical countermeasures for generations. This milk is an evolutionary response to a previously undiscovered threat. Humans may be completely immune to pain-based chemical attacks. But the most extreme theory came. As scholar of intergalactic history, they slowly. This discovery could mean that humans are the most resilient species in the galaxy. A deep, horrified silence fell over the hall. Every species had assumed that they were a weak, primitive species with. But humans had survived what no one else could. They neutralized the dead. And they had done it casually. The galactic order would never be the same. The aftermath of the milk incident spread through the galactic concordance like a supernova. What had begun as a simple diplomatic feast had now escalated into a full-blown interstellar crisis. The Galactic Science Division was still reeling from their discoveries, and alien scholars scrambled to make sense of the implications. But in the political sphere, the situation was far more dire. Because now, the Zor'Xan Empire was furious. The Zor'Xan reaction, an unforgivable insult. In the long and brutal history of the Zor'Xan Empire, no insult had ever been greater than what had just occurred in the banquet hall. For millennia, the flame trials had been the ultimate test of strength, a sacred tradition that determined the worth and endurance of their species. Only the strongest Zor'Xan warriors survived, their names etched into the pillars of honor, immortalized as legends. And yet, a human, one of the softest, most fragile creatures in the galaxy, had reduced their most feared trial to nothing more than a mild inconvenience. To make matters worse, he had used an Earth-based substance to neutralize it. The implications were catastrophic for the Zor'Xan. If humans could effortlessly withstand Char'tall, then the flame trials were meaningless. If humans had a secret biochemical advantage, then the Zor'Xan were no longer the dominant species. And worst of all, this had happened in front of the entire galactic concordance. For an empire built on fear and respect, such a public humiliation could not go unpunished. And so, Char'tall, their ambassador, issued a formal declaration of outrage. Within hours, the Galactic Council chamber was in absolute chaos. The assembled representatives of hundreds of species were divided into two factions. Those who saw humanity as a rising power. These species viewed Jake Reynolds' casual victory over Char'tall as proof that humanity was stronger than previously believed. They saw an opportunity in Earth's strange biochemistry and began calling for new trade agreements, military alliances, and scientific cooperation. The Aflori of the Outer Rim, for example, immediately began negotiating for milk imports, suspecting it could be used to enhance biological endurance. Those who saw humanity as a threat. The Zalvari Collective proposed a complete embargo on Earth, fearing humans had been hiding their true power and might possess other biochemical countermeasures. The Char'tall warlords called for sanctions, claiming humans had violated the natural balance of power. Some militaristic species even suggested preemptive strikes against Earth, lest humanity become too powerful too quickly. And then, of course, there were the Zor'Xan, who were demanding war. Meanwhile, back on Earth, the crisis was just now being relayed to the United Terran government. The message from the Galactic Concordance was as follows. Your species has destabilized interstellar diplomacy through unauthorized biochemical superiority. Please provide immediate clarification on the true nature of this milk weapon or face sanctions. Earth's response was simple. Wait, what? Government officials, scientists, and military leaders gathered in emergency meetings, utterly baffled by the fact that a common dairy product had just thrown the galaxy into political turmoil. They quickly released an official statement, explaining that milk was not a weapon, not a biochemical enhancement, and definitely not a threat to the stability of the universe. Predictably, no one believed them. In a desperate attempt at diplomacy, Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Concordance, Dr. Elaine Vasquez, scheduled an emergency press conference. She stepped onto the holographic podium, cleared her throat, and addressed the panicked alien leaders. Ladies and gentlemen of the Galactic Concordance, she began, her voice calm but firm, I understand that there has been some confusion regarding Earth's consumption of dairy products. She took a breath. Milk is not a biochemical countermeasure. It is a natural secretion produced by bovine mammals on our planet and is widely consumed as a source of nutrients. The room stared at her in horror. A Zalvari delegate fainted. A Char'tall warlord slammed his fist onto the table. So it is an engineered substance, one alien accused. You have domesticated creatures specifically for the purpose of producing an antidote to extreme biochemical pain. Dr. Vasquez rubbed her temples. No. It's just food. The room exploded into furious debate. Just when it seemed like the situation couldn't get worse, the doors to the council chamber slammed open. Char'tall, the Zor'Xan ambassador, stepped forward, his emerald scales shimmering with barely contained fury. This is unacceptable, he growled. The Zor'Xan Empire will not stand by while our traditions are mocked and our dominance challenged. The council fell silent. All eyes turned to him. Char'tall's gaze locked onto Jake Reynolds, who had been summoned to the chamber for questioning. Human, Char'tall hissed, his voice dripping with contempt, if you are truly as strong as you claim, then prove it in battle. Jake frowned. Battle, he repeated. I thought this was about food. Char'tall bared his razor-sharp teeth. You have insulted the very foundation of our empire. The only way to restore honor is through a Char'tall duel. No milk. No mercy. Only survival. Jake blinked. Wait, you want me to eat even spicier stuff, without milk? Char'tall nodded grimly. Jake sighed, rubbing his face. All right, fine. But if I win, you guys have to try buffalo wings. The council erupted into utter chaos. The duel was set. The galaxy held its breath. Because for the first time in history, the fate of interstellar diplomacy would be decided by a spice-eating contest. The challenge had been issued. The fate of interstellar diplomacy, perhaps even the future of humanity's place in the galaxy, now rested on a single contest. A spice duel. The concept was simple. Jake Reynolds, Earth's unwitting champion, would face off against the greatest spice eater in the known universe, a Zor'Xan flame-born warrior, in a battle of endurance. The rules? No milk. No external assistance. Consume progressively spicier dishes until only one competitor remains standing. This was no mere food challenge. To the Zor'Xan, This was warfare, a sacred right to determine superiority. If Jake lost, Earth would be forced to accept the Zor'Xan Empire's demands, including economic sanctions and territorial restrictions. If he won, the Zor'Xan would be forced to acknowledge humanity's strength and, more importantly, try buffalo wings. The arena was set within the grand hall of the Galactic Concordance, now converted into a stadium packed with spectators from across the cosmos. News of the duel had spread faster than a tachyon pulse, and every major civilization had sent representatives to witness the spectacle. At the center stood two contestants. On one side, Vadar Corvex, a towering Zor'Xan warrior covered in ceremonial armor, his scales gleaming with bioresistant oils. He had trained for this moment since birth, surviving dishes that had killed lesser beings. On the other side, Jake Reynolds, wearing his standard Earth-issued uniform, and a slightly amused expression. The first dish was placed before them. A single Char'tall fruit. Corvex smirked and swallowed it whole, his body barely reacting. The audience cheered. Jake took a bite. The familiar rush of heat exploded in his mouth. His body registered it, yes, but after years of suffering through Earth nothing new. Not bad, he said, swallowing. The crowd gasped. The Zor'Xan warriors exchanged nervous glances. The next dish was an infamous delicacy from the volcanic world of Ytar-6, a gelatinous orb known as the ember pod, which continued to burn at searing temperatures even after digestion. Corvex hesitated for the briefest second before consuming it. A faint glow spread across his throat as his internal cooling systems fought to regulate his body temperature. Jake? He popped the pod into his mouth and chewed thoughtfully. The heat was incredible, but honestly? Tastes like a ghost pepper smoothie, he muttered. Corvex stiffened. The spectators murmured. The Zor'Xan had never seen an opponent remain this calm in round 2. The duel continued. By the third round, every species in the audience was transfixed. The duel had escalated into legendary territory, with dishes that had been outlawed in some systems due to their lethality. The final challenge? The black star pepper. A fruit so toxic that it required containment fields just to be transported safely. The arena fell silent. Corvex's hand trembled as he picked up the pepper. He hesitated, then steeled himself and took the bite. His muscles tensed, his eyes dilated, his throat contracted as his body fought against the fire. The crowd roared, cheering on their champion. And then, Jake took his bite. Silence. His face twitched. His eyes watered. His brain registered the pain. But then, he swallowed. And grinned. All right, he croaked, his voice raw. That one's got some kick. Corvex's eyes widened in horror. His body shook. The pain was unbearable, his biological defenses failing. With a guttural growl, he collapsed onto one knee. The crowd gasped. Then against all expectations he fell flat on his back. A medic team rushed in. The duel was over. Jake Reynolds had won. The Zor'Xan were stunned. Never, in their species' history, had an outsider bested them in their own trials. Char'tall, standing among his fallen warriors, knew there was only one path forward. With a slow, deliberate motion, he approached Jake, extending his hand in a traditional gesture of respect. The Zor'Xan acknowledge your victory, human, he said solemnly. The room erupted into cheers. Across the galaxy, the impact was immediate. The Zor'Xan were forced to recognize humans as equals. Earth's political status skyrocketed. Milk became the most sought-after commodity in the galaxy. And, perhaps most importantly, The Zor'Xan were forced to eat buffalo wings. Jake watched with great amusement as Corvax took his first hesitant bite. The warrior's face contorted as the spicy sauce hit his tongue. But before he could react, a human diplomat slid a glass of milk across the table. Corvax stared at it. He hesitated. Then, slowly, he took a sip. The entire room held its breath. Corvax set the glass down. He considered. Then, with pure reverence, he nodded. Acceptable. The spice war was over. And just like that, the greatest diplomatic crisis in interstellar history had been resolved, by a glass of milk and a plate of buffalo wings. The Zor'Xan, once the undisputed champions of culinary endurance, had acknowledged humanity's resilience. The spice war, which could have led to galactic sanctions or even open conflict, had instead ended in mutual respect. But more than that, something unexpected had happened. The simple act of sharing a meal had forged a new understanding between species. The Galactic Concordance, which had been divided by fear and suspicion, now saw humans in a new light. For centuries, humanity had been regarded as a minor player, a relatively weak, fragile species with no special abilities. But the events of the past few days had rewritten that narrative. Humanity was not weak. They were adaptable. They were unpredictable. And, perhaps most terrifyingly, they were completely unfazed by things that could kill most other species. In the weeks that followed, the economic impact of the duel rippled across the galaxy. Milk became a prized commodity, its value skyrocketing as species from across the stars scrambled to obtain it. Trade agreements with Earth boomed, as civilizations sought access to the ultimate spice neutralizer. Dairy farms across the planet experienced an unprecedented demand, leading to the formation of the Intergalactic Dairy Trade Federation. And, of course, Earth capitalized on it immediately. New advertisements began appearing across the stars. Need relief? Got milk? Entire alien cultures adopted dairy products into their diets, while others began developing their own versions of spice trials, only this time, with a bottle of milk at the ready. The galaxy had changed forever. And humans? They had officially secured their place in interstellar history. Jake Reynolds, now both a diplomatic hero and a culinary legend, sat back at a table in the Galactic Concordance's lounge, watching as a group of Zor'Xan warriors cautiously dipped buffalo wings into blue cheese dressing. He smirked. You know, he mused, if they are losing their minds over milk, imagine what's gonna happen when they discover coffee? Somewhere in the galaxy, a new diplomatic crisis was already brewing. And there you have it, humans turning a glass of milk into the ultimate galactic game-changer and sealing the deal with some buffalo wings. From a deadly food challenge to a cross-species bromance, this is why humanity keeps blowing the universe's mind. What do you guys think? Could coffee be the next big thing to mess with these aliens, like Jake hinted? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I wanna hear what dish you'd throw at an alien to show 'em who's boss. If you love this wild ride and wanna catch more epic sci-fi stories with SciFi Space, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss an adventure. Thanks for hanging out, fam. Catch you next time in the crazy expanse of SciFi Space. Peace out.